Bonjour, je suis en compagnie de Jackie Skripnik. Nous sommes à Cochrane et Jackie est la fondatrice et la propriétaire d'un bed and breakfast qui s'appelle Hereabouts B&B. En français, on appelle ça souvent un gîte. Le mot, c'est souvent gîte ou bed and breakfast. Jackie est une amie également et elle parle français.
Un peu.
Elle comprend tout en tout cas. Et puis elle a accepté, aujourd'hui nous sommes le 7 février, je crois, le 7 février 2018. Alors elle a accepté de vous adresser, de répondre à quelques questions pour parler de son expérience pour son bed and breakfast. On va, si vous permettez, nous allons changer pour l'anglais parce que les termes sont plus spécifiques à l'anglais. Est-ce que tu as, juste une petite question avant, est-ce que tu as des clients francophones dans ton gîte?
Je pense un ou deux. Oui. Pas beaucoup.
Pas beaucoup?
Non.
Est-ce que tu fais ta publicité comme si ton bed and breakfast est bilingue?
Non, parce que je connais très... juste un peu de français. Oui, je parle juste un peu. Alors.
Tu ne veux pas faire de fausses publicités?
Non, exactement.
Moi, je sais que c'est pas vrai. Je sais que tu parles plus français que ça. Alors, pourquoi... nous allons tout de suite aller droit au but. J'avais quelques questions pour Jackie. So, Jackie, I'm interested to know, you built this B&B and we'll show it online as well. We'll show you some photos and we'll show you a little film of it. But it was a dream of yours and your husband. How long did it take before you brought it to reality?
It was pretty much a year from the time we decided to do it to getting all the permitting and then building it. My husband's a carpenter, so that helped a lot in speeding that whole process up of building it. But yeah, about a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you designed all the plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you designed the plans, were you from the start, were you planning to have it as a bed and breakfast? Was it your intention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. And as I was saying to you earlier, probably would have designed it differently if we had planned to live in it full time, or if somebody was going to live in it full time. Because you don't, with a B&B, you don't need the storage space, and there's just different needs, right? And you're worried a little bit more about people just finding it really comfortable for their stay versus having space for all kinds of extra things.
Had you stayed in a tiny house B&B before yourself?
No.
So you didn't pull from your experience?
No.
Your vision?
Yeah, for sure.
So the part, I want to be mindful of the time. So the part that I want to address was about the administration. So we're in the same town where I live, in Cochrane. It's a town of about 25,000 people. And Jackie here is a pioneer for this kind of lodging. So when you approach the town of Cochrane there's two kinds of permits you were saying. There is the development permit and the building permit.
Right.
So how was it to tell them to...
Well, it was good. I went, before I even proceeded, down the path at all, I went straight to one of the planners and talked to her about it just to see if this is something they would shut down, or if they would, if they would consider it. And she was pretty open. She liked the idea, and and so I continued from there. And they needed a lot of detail actually before I was even ready to. Before I knew some of the details, they needed details about the tiny house plan in order to approve it.
Did you find that helpful? Did you find that it helped you think about things you hadn't thought, or it was just hoops to jump?
It probably did sort of like push you along, but it was just sort of, I was just surprised that they needed details about the exterior finishing and colors and stuff before you'd even, I thought I would figure that out as I went later on, but there's a little bit of flexibility, if that changes a little bit, it's not the end of the world, but it probably moved things along.
But it wasn't, you were telling me that it wasn't a horrible experience. You found that they wanted to work with you. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just, I was a little bit surprised by how many, I mean, you know, under the building permit, you need the gas and the electrical permit and the plumbing permit and, you know, even an engineer's stamp on something. And there's just all these little steps and expenses along the way, but that's just the regular process. It just takes time and you know, a little more expense than I thought.
so if you were to do this again, or if any of you were interested in starting your own business of building a B&B or a tiny house, would you approach it the same way, or would you do something different? We're still referring to the administration or permit part of it.
No, I wouldn't have changed anything, because I think that, you know, involving them right from the beginning, I had support and then guidance, you know, and then it was just a matter of it just takes time. So you can't, you know, you might not be able to get going quite as quickly as you wanted while you're waiting for the permits.
Right, that's right.
But
one thing holds the other.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it went along. It went along just fine. I didn't get turned down at any point, you know. So, yeah.
One of the things that you will read in the PDF that we've included is the fact that for the town of Cochrane, they don't allow tiny house. They allow you have to have a main residence, and what is it called, a garden?
Accessory suite or a garden suite, yeah. Yeah.
So this is how they treated the tiny houses.
Yeah, exactly. Like, an accessory suite. So, or a granny suite, some people call it, right? Or
but separate physically from the main residence.
Right. Yeah.
So we're at 7 minutes, we're doing great. So I was just wanting to ask you the second question, which is about operations. So what part of the operation is more labor for you now that you're in the full swing of operating a B&B? Is it the actual maintenance of it? Is it the promoting of it? The accounting part of it? Which one would you say?
Probably the maintenance, by which I mean cleaning, you know, cleaning it, you know, and changing sheets and all of that. So sort of turning it over from one guest to the next is probably the most labor intensive. And next to that would be maybe just the correspondence, you know, going back and forth with people, which you forget that there's that sort of, you know, figuring out when they're coming and what they want to have for breakfast, and that type of thing sort of takes up some time you don't think about.
Sure, yeah, I can imagine. Did you find it difficult to decide on your breakfast? Like, was it a difficult choice?
You know what, I mean, I love food and making breakfast and stuff, so I could get pretty excited about lots of ideas, but I was pretty worried about what other people might like or not like, you know, and how it would be received. So I was a bit nervous at first, but having gotten good feedback, I just, you know, gained confidence and just kind of changed things up with the seasons and what's looking good, right? Yeah.
Well, you can always invite me if you want people to test your breakfast.
For sure.
I will. Anyone that Jackie invites will have to say yes, because her food is amazing. So just quickly then, just to wrap it up before we go and do a little walk around, is about promoting your B&B, and also what made you decide that it was going to be a B&B versus other kind of lodging.
Yeah, so at the moment I built a website, and so I've got a good website out there, and I'm also on Airbnb. Most places aren't actually B&Bs on Airbnb, but so I'm using that as a platform to get the word out, and that is really helpful. So until regulations change, if they do, that's just been really helpful to get the word out. Yeah, and then I've done up cards and postcards that I've got at the tourist info in Cochrane and in Canmore, and pinned up a few places in town. That's kind of the extent of it at the moment. Yeah.
So what made you decide of a full-on bed and breakfast versus the Airbnb?
Well, yeah, I'm really not just trying to have a little bit of accommodation and maybe make a little bit of cash and that's the end of it. I'm trying to, as I said, I love making food and growing food and sharing that with people. And part of what we wanted to do too was just meet new people and kind of have them come into our space where we're growing things in the backyard and try a tiny house and just engage with people a little bit more that way. So yeah, exposing people to kind of healthy local food was part of it, and the fact that I enjoy making breakfast on that small scale, for 2 or 3 people.
That's brilliant. And it's you're getting the rewards.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Very nice. That's the end of our entretien. Merci beaucoup, Jackie.
Oui, merci.
Tu vas être célèbre maintenant sur la plateforme Moodle avec le Campus Saint-Jacques.